Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome to another episode of Intuitive Creator Spotlight. I am Stella, your host, and in this playlist, I invite beautiful intuitive creators who embraced themselves, their path, and now are on a journey to help other people connect with themselves and the world too. Today, I have here with me the amazing Jess, who shares her powerful story of healing through physical pain, emotional disconnection, and nervous system dysregulation. She has been on quite a journey, and I cannot wait for her to talk about her journey here in this interview. Hi, Jess. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thanks so much for having me as well. I'm excited to be here.
I'm really happy to create this interview with you, and I know it's going to be a very special one, and you bring such a beautiful, positive energy as well. So I would love to ask you, what was that moment when you realized, you know what, something needed to shift within you? That moment when you decided that you're going to start looking for something different to bring into your life.
Yeah. So it was from about the end of 2023, so from about autumn time right through till springtime in 2024, I just really struggled with a lot of physical symptoms. I'm never really an ill person either, so I had like a lot of headaches. I had um feelings of like there was 4 months where I just felt sick, and I was never sick, but I felt like my body was just falling apart. I think I ended up getting a bit sort of obsessed with how I felt, so it then made me feel like anxious. I felt like I was disconnecting from friends because I just didn't I felt like I was in pain, but I didn't feel like me. So I sort of like lost bits of my life slowly, like I wasn't doing nice things anymore. I was still working, but I was working at home. But in hindsight, it probably wasn't that good for me because it was like I was trying to push through. So it was about 8 months of feeling really quite ill. And then I just reached a point where I was like, I just need to stop and do something. So I took some time off. But it was like the surrender of that was huge for me, because I'd always thought I had this little inner achiever in me, and I was like, you've got to keep going, you've got to keep doing your work. And at the time, I didn't even realize it could be something more like associated with my nervous system. I just thought I had like some weird illness that had made me really ill. So I'd been going to loads of specialist appointments because we had private healthcare through my husband, and I'd gone through every appointment. I had brain scans, I had like cameras down my throat, down into my stomach. There was nothing there. But I was just so frustrated. I was like, I don't know what to do. So then I went and got help. And then it was then that with that space and time that I just did small things that like kept me connected with the world, because I didn't want to like lose my sense of being able to speak to humans. So I went for like little walks in the village. They did like a wellness group. I went for like massages. I just did things for me, but tiny things. Like things were such an effort back then because I felt so ill. But it was the small, tiny things that sort of built up. And then I realized my pain was better at times when I did like some relaxing stuff. So I'd like gone to a lavender yoga, and I'd realized that when I finished that, I didn't have this head pain. I was like, that's really weird. I wonder if there's something in that. And then I ended up Googling a bit about like, can pain just be a thing that like you've basically just got used to, but there's no reason for it. And that's when I found my hypnotherapist that I had. So she was a solution focused hypnotherapist. So I started having that. And that just explained everything to me, because she explained the brain, she explained what had been going on, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like I've just been in a state of survival for pretty much most of my life, and it was just like a penny drop moment. I had 11 weeks of that, and I'd gone back to work in that time, like way before I finished that. And I just felt like, wow, I've like rewired parts of me in my brain that I've just carried with me for literally since I was a child. And then I branched out into like yoga in the forest. I did sound bath. I still do all these things. I had acupuncture, which was amazing. I feel like my acupuncturist was a definite saviour, and I still see her now. So yeah, it just made me go down this wellness route of like you mentioned in the intro, like reconnecting with me it's like looking back, I'd just lived in a trauma survival state and never truly connected with who I was. So yeah, it's been a journey.
It sounds like a journey for sure, and it's very interesting how when the person is ready, or like we
Mm,
saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. In this
yeah.
case for you, when you were open, you thought,
Mm,
okay, I'm ready now for something
yeah.
else, for something more. That beautiful person came in, and you connected with the hypnotherapy that she was
Yeah.
sharing with you. So when you talk about solution-focused hypnotherapy, I know that you are now practicing
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
deep into this beautiful space. Can you explain to us, if somebody's watching, maybe they're thinking,
Yeah.
well, I've heard of hypnotherapy, but what is it?
Hmm.
Solution-focused hypnotherapy.
Yeah. So basically, it does combine, there's like a talking therapy element to it. And then there's the relaxation that people might hear about as like hypnosis, or they might have heard of the word trance. So sometimes I think people think the hypnosis bit is a bit mystical and a bit weird, like we're going to control the minds, but it's really not. It's like a very relaxing state where your brain's open to more, open to change, really. So the solution focused part is where we work with people to sort of guide them to think of their own solutions. So it's this idea that we don't talk about the past like some therapies, and I know that has its place. Like I know that every single therapy is useful in some way for some things, but often going over things that have been bad could just keep us in that survival brain. So the solution focused hypnotherapy is built on the premise that we've all got what we need inside of us. It's just a case of accessing that. So if we focused on the positives, it puts us in like what we call our intellectual brain rather than our primitive brain, which is a survival brain, the one that's like been primed to fight against polar bears, basically. So if we can live more in that intellectual brain, which is at the front of our brain, we can sort of be more open to positive things and solutions. But it's not to say we're like toxically positive, like we're just helping people to manage with life. So life still happens, but people will notice the good things. So we look for glimmers, and the more glimmers you see, the more you literally see them, because your brain will be rewired for them. So it's like a very forward thinking approach, and it just softly guides people to change that comes from them. And then the brain knows that they're capable of making change, which sort of builds confidence, builds new pathways in the brain. And then it's good for the nervous system, as in it brings safety. So it's like they realize that they can do those small things, and then that leads to big things. And the relaxation part, so the trance, just really helps with that, because those two minds of like the primitive and the intellectual brain come together in focus, and that's when people can just access the very best of themselves and like really truly do what they want, not what they think they should do. So yeah.
With all of these different problems nowadays that people have,
Yeah.
with so many
Mm.
distractions, it can be very hard for someone who is going through a vulnerable time
Yeah.
to see what they can actually do, what
Mm.
they should do in
Hmm.
that moment. And
Yeah.
yes, in those times, you're tempted to go to another, I don't know, source on the internet to see what somebody
Yeah.
else did. But
Yeah.
it's so important to come back to yourself and
Yeah.
really focus on what is right for you. And I love that you
Hmm.
explained how you then help people find their own solutions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I really love the positivity part. And you mentioned it's not like extra positive,
Mm.
where you
Yeah.
ignore all the important things. I
Hmm.
say it's about perspective. It's like if you think about
Yeah.
an object, you just walk around that object until you see the angle that
Yeah.
may be missed,
Yeah.
or you
Yeah.
really need to see at that point in time.
Yeah.
So I know you
Yeah.
mentioned a term which I find it very interesting, the inner achiever.
Yeah. Yeah.
How would you describe that? Maybe somebody's like, okay, that's very interesting. Maybe I am going through that. Maybe I
Yeah.
to focus too much on that. How did it
Hmm.
look like for you?
Yeah, so basically, when because I've done a lot of reflection over the last year, and even when I was in the thick of some of that, I started reflecting as I came out of it and like trying to understand myself. And so I did lose my dad when I was young, so I was 12. And I think my response, like when I wrote down on paper, like how I responded, it was just basically like don't make too much fuss about it. You don't want to be known as that kid whose dad's passed away. Do your GCSEs, do your A levels, crack on. Like, and I was only 12, but obviously it wasn't long till like GCSEs when I was 16. So I was quite a quiet child. Like I was always quite good at my work. So I did just literally put all my energy into school. And then I went to uni and did psychology. I did a master's, which I was pleased to do. Like I wouldn't change it. But then I did a PhD. So it's like I've done a lot of achieving. And again, I wouldn't change that, but I know that it came from a place of pressure almost, like where it felt like I was like striving through it all in quite a I need to survive way rather than passion. And now that I'm doing this solution focused hypnotherapy, even alongside a full-time job in the academic world, which I do love, I don't feel the same. I feel like it just comes from passion. So people say, how are you doing all this? And it's like, because I love it. I'm not tired with it because I just love it. And I don't operate on cortisol anymore. So I feel like I've got more energy to just do what I love. So I'm still determined and dedicated and want to do well with things, but it comes from a different place. I feel like it was a trauma response. And I maybe never realised because I just thought it was me because I'd lived like that for so long. I just thought that's who I was. So
Mm.
yeah.
You are serving from your heart, and with
Yeah.
that, you're using all of your experience, knowledge, and all
Mhm.
the skills that you have to do this. And I can
Mm.
imagine like how this journey is going to unfold for you going forward, because I know that as part of your job, you are also doing research. Would you like to talk about what
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
you do in your job?
Yeah. Definitely. So I've worked in it's academic research. So I've done that for 12 years. So I actually work in stroke, so people who've had a stroke and aging. So we work with a lot of different conditions in older people. But the work that I do is always focused on people's experiences or trying to support them to manage better with whatever it is. So whether that is a stroke or a different condition. So I've always really loved that work. Like before I worked in the academic world, I worked in mental health and learning disabilities. So all of my roles I've ever done have always had a thread of like wanting to make a difference. So I really do love my academic work still. I did my PhD while I've been based where I am. It's in, I'm part of the University of Leeds, but we're physically based in Bradford as well. So I absolutely love the work I do. We do a lot of creativity now. So I've been working with a stroke survivor to do some artwork as well as part of a project. And we've got an exhibition actually coming up in Bradford. So yeah, we're happy with everyone knowing about that because it's very exciting. So yeah, I feel like I've just brought the things that I love. Like I always loved arts and things as a child, but I probably neglected it. But now I feel like I'm just bringing everything I love to the world again. And it feels like I can now share that, and you sort of find your people. So even like with the work stuff, it's like you find the people that share those interests, and it's just amazing. So I do still love my academic job, and I'm doing my solution focused hypnotherapy like aside from that. So that's a 10-month course, and I have some clients at the minute that I see on an evening, but it's just they do actually come together quite well in a way, and I hope to combine them properly and do some research into stroke and solution focused hypnotherapy. So that would be amazing if I could do that.
And your inner child is so happy as you do all
Mm,
these things. You, because you mentioned you pushed yourself so hard to
yeah.
study when you were
Hmm.
young, and now it's like you're allowing your
Yeah.
inner child to come and play and experience
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
of these things.
Literally. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when we hit points where our body hurts in any kind of
Hmm.
way, of course we have no choice but to come back to
Mm.
ourselves, like
Yeah. Yeah.
you have experienced. So I know that you've described your healing as your body whispering before it
Yeah.
screamed.
Yeah.
What did
Yeah.
that mean for you?
Yeah, so actually, I ended up writing a letter to. It's funny that you just said inner child, because I wrote a letter to my inner child it was probably when I was starting to feel a lot better, but I came to the realization that basically I think my body had been whispering for a lot of years. Like I probably carried a level of anxiety that I thought was relatively normal, maybe thought it was like normal nerves or just how people are, because I was able to like still do the things I wanted to do. I'm very happy with my life. I've got lovely husband, lovely friends, lovely family, was doing well at work seemingly, so I didn't really think anything of it. And then looking back, before I really did get to a point where I was like, my body was basically just crumbling, I think I had like glimmers of feeling on edge, and there was a lot, what we now understand in hypnotherapy as a stress bucket. My stress bucket just had quite a lot going into it. So I think there was whispers before it screamed, and the scream was like when I technically was like a bit chronically ill, even though I'm absolutely symptom free now. I feel great. But I think that was when it was screaming to be like, something needs to change. And I wrote this letter to my inner child about how long it had, like, the little inner child had been caring for me and trying to alert me, but I just wasn't aware of these whispers. And I was finally ready to basically meet this little inner child where she's at and like look after her. And it's yeah, so I wrote that letter, and that was quite emotional, but it was actually like such a moment where I was like, wow, this all makes sense. And that's been published actually on a blog on it's like someone who has a journal. They've recently published it on a little blog. So yeah, it's out in the universe.
What a beautiful gift to your soul as well, because it's like,
Yeah.
first of all, it takes a long time to become aware of
Mm-hmm.
these things, because it's easy, like once we go through it, it's easy to look back and say, well, that was the
Yeah.
problem, or that's where I needed
Yeah.
to add. But when you're in that space, it's not easy. That's the truth. And you have to
Mm.
spend a lot of time reflecting and feeling and processing and
Mm-hmm.
remembering and changing. And there is so much that goes with it. So
Mm.
in this journey back to yourself, what has surprised you the most about who you are today, who you became today, or
Yeah.
with yourself?
I think it surprised me that I actually feel quite confident now, but not in like a really loud sort of, it's like quiet confidence. Like I can take things in my stride and I don't sort of feel overwhelmed, and I can sort of, it feels like I'm just free. I feel like I've got freedom to just be who I am, and it's okay. Like I don't even think whether people like me now. I just think you find your people in life. I'm very blessed actually. I was thinking earlier, I'm very fortunate with like I say, my husband's amazing, my family, my friends, they all stuck by me through what I went through. And I know you would probably expect that, but I know some people do lose people in times like that. So I'm very grateful for everyone I've got. And then I've met these incredible people along the way, and I've just found it's just been amazing. It's like, this is what life is when you're not living as a trauma survivor, basically, in survival state, I mean. So yeah, I think it's like being able to just be me and put myself out there in places that I want to be. Like even doing this, I wouldn't have done this a year ago, before a year ago. Even just connecting with everyone in the wellness world, I feel like I'm finally like, I don't need to think I need to fit in anymore. I'm just me. So it's lovely.
Oh, that's so liberating, isn't it? To just
Yeah.
be you. And,
Yeah.
like you said, you can lose or like some connections, as in like even friends,
Hmm.
as you mentioned about your
Yeah.
family. But when you go through these journeys or like all of these experiences of personal growth and spiritual growth, sometimes
Hmm.
it just happens that some people no longer resonate with you and vice
Mm.
versa, which is okay. It's
Hmm.
okay, because I mean,
Yeah.
I love to say, like I always remember the saying that Ram Dass mentioned: "We are all walking each other home," and that's what
Yeah.
happens. Like once we
Yeah.
feel that, then we just have to keep going through life and embrace every
Mhm.
single chapter as it comes. So I know that you mentioned that you're now doing more of the things that feel really aligned with who you are.
Hmm.
What does this mean to you now, comparing to like how you were doing things in the past?
Yeah. So I think it's just opened up a world to me. So like I do a lot of things that are good for me, like yoga and like sound baths and things like that in the wellness sphere. And even when I see friends now, like we can just connect on a different level. I think it's partly a sign of our times. Like we're getting a bit older, but we used to go out and like go for drinks, but now it feels like we do things that are a bit different. Or if I want to do something like creative, like people will either join me or they won't, and it's fine. Or I'll go do some retreats. And again, I've had people say, I want to come, like it looks great, but I'm quite happy to just do what I do, and people will either join me on that or they won't. And I don't mind being different now. So in the past, I might have like not really showed those parts of myself as much, like, or talked about it. But now if I say something that's a bit crazy or a bit me, I'm like, well, it's fine. It's just what I do. If you don't like it, it's fine.
Yeah,
We're all
and the
different.
more you do that, the more you allow yourself to share parts of who you are,
Mm,
the more exciting it is. And I think this energy
yeah.
is very magnetic. And
Mm,
those people who need to be in your space or in your life,
yeah.
they will resonate with that, and they'll just you will just navigate towards each other, which is
Yeah.
absolutely fascinating. If you're thinking about the people that you're working with, your clients, people who are drawn
Mhm.
to your work, what would you say they are normally struggling with? Some examples of
Mm,
situations that they are
yeah.
dealing with when they come to you.
Yeah. So it'll be a range of people, from like people who want a bit more confidence, people who are quite overwhelmed with work, people who might be feeling depressed, like if they've had a lot happen to them in their lives at the minute, they're trying to navigate a lot. Some people come with things that are quite specific, like fears of driving. Yeah, it's quite a mix, because it can be something that someone comes with, but then they might have other things, and then it's like a ripple effect. So they'll come with a particular thing, but then they start realizing as they improve that they're actually like going on a bit of a healing journey and doing incredible things that they might never have imagined that that's what they kind of needed to heal. So like when I went with head pain to hypnotherapy, even though I wasn't well, clearly looking back, like as in I was probably very anxious, but at the time I was just like so obsessed with this head pain. I was like, I need to get rid of it. And that quickly healed, actually, because I came out of that part of my brain that was obsessed with it. And then I ended up feeling more confident in situations like presenting at work. And it's like, I didn't go for that. Or like I might feel more authentically me, and I learned that I could change my mind. So people do come with a particular thing that drives them there, but then they realize that actually they end up just healing parts of themselves that they didn't realize. And they say to me, like, we've not even talked about that thing that I came for, and look, it doesn't bother me anymore. It's weird. And they've not even finished yet. They're doing incredible. Like, honestly, I'm so proud of them. They've not finished the sessions yet, because they decide when it ends as well. But the shifts that you see even in about 6 weeks is insane. Like, it's so amazing. So yeah.
Wow, this is really inspiring, because imagine like somebody coming in with such an issue that
Mm,
you can't really pinpoint, because there is,
yeah.
like you mentioned, it can be like head pain, but then there's
Mm,
much more that goes with it as well.
mm,
And yeah, it's really, really a gift. And I think it's not a
yeah.
coincidence that as intuitive creators, we are guided to certain things, to do certain things, to look into certain aspect and
Mm,
world in a particular way. And of course, to everyone who's watching us, please check out the description of this video to know how you can connect with Jess, especially if you're going through those kind of moments or examples that she gave or more. Just reach out to her to know how you can work with her. And I know that there are also a lot of people who maybe watch and they think, okay, but before I reach out, I need
mm,
to like spend a little bit of time with myself and like
mm-hmm.
be sure that this is the kind of help I need, but I still feel emotionally disconnected, or
Uh-huh.
I also experience physical disconnection as well. What would you suggest to them as like a small, simple step to start with?
Even before they come to
Mhm.
therapy, do you mean?
Yeah.
I guess in a way, like that's what this therapy is about. So if it almost is people realizing that things can be different, because I think
Mm.
when you're in that darker place, it's hard to believe that anything could ever be any different. So I would actually advise people they could give it a go and see how they feel, because they're not signed up to anything. They decide how many sessions they have. So I would say that it's about, I mean, it's like we basically softly guide people to be open to change. We don't tell people what to do, there's no homework. It's all about them coming up with solutions. So if someone's open to that little tiny things could build up and completely change their life. And I'm seeing that not only in me, but I see that in others now. And that is just amazing to see, because it makes you truly believe the power of what it can achieve for people.
Mm. This is incredible because yes, you're just inviting people to become aware and like really be just to try
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then and I
And
think
I think as well, sorry, I was just thinking, I think people think if they've felt anxious or depressed or similar for so long, they think they can't change because they're so used to that person that they think that is who they are. And I've always said to people, like even on my Instagram, for my therapy or just in conversations in person, I've said, it's not you, like you are not your anxiety or your depression or anything. That is how your brain's evolved to protect you, and that is not you. So some people are a bit reluctant because I think they think, oh well, it's just me, this is how I am. Or especially if someone's a bit older, like, oh, I'm too old to change now. It's like, well, the brain is actually very powerful and very adaptable if we sort of guide it in the right way. So I'd be saying that to someone who might think they'd be hesitant because they don't think they could achieve that, if that makes sense.
yes, that's a really great point, actually. And thank you for sharing it because I know what you mean by people would say, oh, that's just me. That's how I am. That's my
Yeah, yeah.
style. You know, nothing I can do about it. When in reality, with tiny changes consistently, those things absolutely definitely can
Yeah.
change. With also with support as well, they happen even faster. So yes, to everyone who's watching, please make sure you see how you can connect with Jess. And before we go, I would really love for you to share how about your connection with butterflies, because I know we've had a conversation and you even have butterfly in your logo. So I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so my therapy business that I'm just setting up alongside the training, because that's what we do on that, which is amazing in itself. So it's called Wings of Change Hypnotherapy. So when I finished my therapy, I remember writing a post on Instagram that said she'd given me my wings and now I'm ready to fly. And like it, and I kept thinking about that. And at the time I didn't know that I was going to go do this. So that was like July last year. And then by like it must have been around the October time that I thought about doing this course. But I was already kind of thinking about names because it felt like something that came from me. It wasn't like I need a name for my business, but it just came from me. And I went to this angel workshop at a spa near here. And the lady said, we'll do a meditation and you can call upon your guardian angel. So I love angels, but I've never really done a meditation like that. And she said, you might hear a name. And I shut my eyes and I didn't hear any name at all, but a blue butterfly flew across like my eyes. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. And then a few months later, when I got on the course, I just had a thought, like, what could I call my business? And then it just came to me like Wings of Change. And I like a lot of the metaphors around it about like basically growing and evolving and being who, like basically just blooming and being who you're always supposed to be. And then there's quotes about butterflies not realizing how beautiful they are because they can't even see their own wings. So it's things like that. I just think it's lovely. So it's come from my soul, and I feel like that matters with the business because it's nothing that I ever thought I'd do. I never thought I'd have a business, but it feels like very soul led. So that's good for me as well.
I love that. Very soul led. And yes, you can't, even if it is a business and it's not just about like your journey and path, it's like it's a business where you come and serve people. It has to have your energy in it because otherwise it feels disconnected, right? So it's really beautiful that you spent that time to really understand what felt right for you. To everyone who's watching us, if you have any final thoughts that you want to share with them, I'd love for you to share that with us.
I'd just like to say thank you for this, and I think I'd just like people to know that like change is possible, and like we've talked about, it's all about just being a bit softer and kinder to ourselves. And yeah, I do think people can find their wings and fly in their own way.
Thank you so much, Jess. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing
Thank you.
your presence and energy. I'm super grateful. And to everyone who's watching, if you're new to our channel, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, let us know your thoughts, and check out the description to know how you can connect with Jess and myself. Take care. Bye-bye.